go. All right, and welcome to the first episode of the You Dad Me at Hello podcast. This is our show about two dads and their opinions on film, TV, music, and wrestling. You didn't ask for it, but here we are anyways. Joined by Andy as well. Andy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Andy. That's all you need to know. No. Also a father, avid wrestling fan, avid music fan. I mean, early 90s, which I think we're going to be discussing a lot probably on this podcast. So, yeah, I'm just excited to kick it off for all 5 fans that are listening.
I think you're being a little nice right now because I think we're the only 2 listening. But yeah, so we've known each other since the 80s, lived through the 90s together and on. So we have a lot of the same interests, but at the same time, we're completely different as well, I think, when it comes to music and movies and all of that deal. You've lived through all of my this is the best movie, whatever, and it's always a movie you hate. So it should be interesting. And I gather that's the same thing with wrestling, considering I'm still watching WWE and you've moved on.
Yeah, and, we watch different eras too. You were, big into the 90s, the Attitude Era. That was kind of where I faded out. And then I started kind of watching the indie stuff, early 2000s. And that's kind of when you kind of faded a little bit out of wrestling before kind of picking it up in the later, 2000s. And then, so I think when one of us gets serious about it, the other one is kind of like, I'm on my way out. And we kind of trade back and forth. So it's going to be interesting to see each other's opinions on some of these little tournaments that we have going on. So,
yeah, for everybody who's joining us, we are going to be doing tournament style brackets where we'll go through and decide who is the best in certain areas, whether that be in wrestling or movies or music, TV. I know we have some TV shows of the 90s coming up on a future episode. Today, we are talking about top women's wrestlers of 2000 and beyond. And so we chose 2000 and beyond because we just felt like the 90s and prior got a pretty bad rap for wrestling, and we wanted to talk today more about the wrestling side of things. We'll still incorporate their character and the impact that they had. So even if they're not maybe the greatest wrestler, but they've had such an impact on the business, or maybe they're just a really, really great wrestler but have no personality, they might appear on the list. So we're starting off the brackets with 64 wrestlers. We'll cut that down to 32 pretty quickly, and we'll go through as we decide. If we do not agree on a bracket, we will add a third vote in to be able to pass them along.
And where's that third vote coming from?
That third vote will come from Mr. Randy Miser. He is our third person. It's just a randomizer.
That's dad joke number 1. Let's keep a tally.
But anyways, before we start again, how was your wife in response to you starting a podcast called what it is? You Dad Me at Hello.
She said that's cute.
Yeah.
And then moved on to whatever else she was doing, and I just sunk my head low and walked into the kitchen and ate some candy or something.
Mine literally told me she would not be listening to our podcast. I did tell her that I was forcing her as husband to at least one, but it won't be this one, more likely. So.
Yeah, no, let's get this crafted.
All right, so we're going to start off again the first round of the top women's wrestlers of 2000 to present. So number 1, we have Xia Brookside versus Liv Morgan. Your vote or your thoughts?
Well, this was like a tough one right off the beginning because I think it's 2 totally different wrestlers, but Xia Brookside's more of that technical aspect, where Liv Morgan, she's more of a character. She can still go, but maybe a little bit more inexperienced, which is weird because Xia Brookside's so young, but she has way more experience, and I feel like Xia would take this round. I just feel like she's more complete inside the ring.
I agree. For me, I think both of them are the best of the middle ground. They're not the best wrestlers yet. and they're not the best personalities yet. But I want both of them to succeed more than they are currently.
Yes.
I will match up and say Xia Brookside as well. Moving on, we have Hikaru Shida versus Ali. Looks like both AEW people.
I thought you were gonna pull a JR there and just completely murder that one. Um,
Hikaru, how do you think about that Hikaru?
I'm gonna give it to Shida here. Unfortunately, I feel like I missed out on Allie's Impact run where I think she really shined. Um, yeah, I'm gonna give it to Shida.
I think I'm going to go with that too, only because Shida is a far better wrestler from what I've seen in AEW at least. Ali, again, more of a character in my opinion, and not even a very good one currently yet. But I think she is good. It's just AEW hasn't used her
Yeah,
properly.
yeah. From what I hear, her run in Impact was really good from a character standpoint, and unfortunately, I just didn't see that. But
yeah,
Shida, yeah.
Cool. All right, moving on to the next. We have Mickie James versus Thunder Rosa.
Man, all right. Mickie James is just career-wise probably one of the pioneers of current wrestlers. I mean, and when she came back and she faced Asuka, in the NXT match, she was like, "Hey, I'm here. I'm,
Yep.
like don't forget about me." And then Thunder Rosa, I haven't really seen too much, but that match that she had on AEW's last pay per view was fantastic, and I can see the hype. Um, so just based off, I'm gonna give it to Mickie James on this one, just from a career standpoint.
Yeah, Mickie James versus Thunder Rosa seems kind of unfair, probably to Thunder
not
Rosa. I mean,
not a good
Mickie
first
James
round.
has been around since 1999. So she's been doing it for a long time. She came into the WWE in 2003-ish, and I stopped watching wrestling probably right after that, so I didn't see any of her period of WWE. She then went to TNA for a little while, and then finally returned to WWE only 4 years ago, and that's when I've seen her, is from 4 years ago on. And obviously she's good. Never did it for me, but I would feel not so good about choosing Thunder over Mickie for just the fact that she's been around for so long and has been doing it. So I agree, Mickie. Next one is actually two NXT people. We have Tegan Nox versus Xia Li.
I think Xia Li has tons of potential, and every time I see her, she just gets better. Still don't know if she's put it all together yet, especially from like a character standpoint. I got to give the Tegan Nox. I mean, she can just go. She's just fantastic to watch.
Yeah. Again, I think both of them haven't had the most amazing storylines in NXT. Tegan's only been there since what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago or so. I think she was in the Mae Young Classic. Is where I
got
saw
injured
her.
for all that time.
Oh yeah, yeah, and then so actually that was something NXT did very well, was playing off of her injury, because it
Yeah.
definitely made you want to see her more. Dakota Kai is one of my other favorites, so the two of them feuding. I wish their feud was better than it was, but I'll agree, Tegan Nox over Xia Li. The next one is a tough one, or an odd one. Lita versus Ronda Rousey.
I did not want to like Ronda Rousey when she came in, but she thoroughly impressed me in her short run. Just how quickly she was able to get it. I think in the beginning, like her promos and stuff were kind of rough, but then she just got into this run and stuff with Becky. Um, but I'm gonna give it to Lita on this one. Again, another pioneer, someone who kind of revolutionized the women's uh, division before they went to the Revolution. Um, and she was just she was mixing in with the guys. She was doing all like moonsaults, Hurricane Rana stuff that people had never seen, uh, really from a woman's wrestler at that point. So I'm going with Lita on this one.
Yeah, Lita was around for 6 years, 2000. She was paired with Essa Rios on Shotgun
Yes.
Saturday Night, and that's where I remember seeing her for the first time. Luckily, she moved on to Team Extreme after that. And then
Too much red hair.
I didn't see the Edge heel manager thing, but I've obviously seen clips of that. To me, has one of the ugliest moonsaults I've ever seen in my life, but still interesting enough. It always looked like she was going to kill somebody.
Herself.
And then, but when she returned at Evolution in 2018 with Trish, even though it was against Alicia and Mickie James, not what I thought it was going to be, did a great job. She was women's champion like 4 times, Hall of Fame 2014. So Lita for sure. I think if we had chosen now Ronda Rousey, don't get me wrong, Ronda Rousey, if she never comes back, will still be up there with some of the best for the short time she was here. But
yeah.
Next one, Becky Lynch versus Amazing Kong.
Man, this is a tough first round one because Amazing Kong or well, Awesome Kong, she went by both, tore it up in TNA. She was doing that when she first came to the WWE and then got cut short because of whatever personal kind of stuff that she had going on. And like from Japan, like she's just crazy. But Becky Lynch all the way, just no product placement here. Yeah, Becky Lynch. I mean, hands down.
Yeah, Becky Lynch for the man catchphrase alone. I think that might go down as the best women's storyline probably of
She
all
was the
time for me.
hottest thing in wrestling.
Yeah.
Man or woman.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It was a Becky Lynch show.
And when she comes back, if she does a year, 2 years from now, it'll be probably the biggest pop we've heard in a long time.
For sure.
So, so I agree. Becky Lynch. Luckily, so far, you and I have generally agreed with these. So
yeah,
I think it'll get harder as we get further down. Moving on, we got Molly Holly versus Charlotte. This seems unfair.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Charlotte. I like Molly Holly a lot against someone who was doing things that the women wrestlers weren't doing at that point when she was there. I feel like if she had, say, been around now with the crop of wrestlers, like this might be a different story. But as much as they shove her in our face, Charlotte, she can go. So I'm going Charlotte.
For sure. I think Charlotte will probably go down as one of, the best wrestlers of all time, probably. Even though, again, like you said, she's not one of my favorite wrestlers. But to knock, what she's done in the industry is probably not smart. Molly Holly did great things too, but probably not near the level.
Yeah.
Next, we have Asuka versus Mia Yim.
Are we disregarding Retribution? Because
I think everyone is disregarding Retribution.
Even without that, I got to give this one to Asuka. I think Mia Yim on the independent scene is a different story. I mean, she was tearing up in Beyond Wrestling and stuff, but Asuka, I mean that undefeated streak in NXT, like you believe like anybody who stepped into the ring against her had no shot. So I'm going with Asuka.
Yeah, it's tough. Asuka for me, one of the better wrestlers that I've seen, has the longest undefeated streak. I think in WWE history, 914 days. But her not speaking English very well has hurt her, I think, on the main roster. It didn't hurt her in NXT because I feel like nothing hurts you in NXT. But in WWE on Raw and SmackDown, I think it's hurt her a little bit. But same thing, Mia Yim. I've never been a fan of her character. I just it's not the style of character I like. So I'll go with Asuka as well. Next, Shayna Baszler and Ruby Riott.
Again, this is for everybody. This is the first time we're seeing these brackets. So
that's true. I'm just gonna throw it out there at Shayna Baszler for me. No words.
Yeah, if I had to close my eyes, I'm going with Shayna. I think Ruby's, man, they really messed her up. Like she could have done so much more. But yeah, going with Shayna. She's just badass.
Next one is Britt Baker versus Mercedes Martinez.
Again, Retribution. Really, really putting a wrench in this. Are we only counting their careers in a major promotion?
No, I think you could talk about pretty much anything.
All right. I'm gonna give it to Mercedes Martinez because again, she's earned it. She's someone who just worked her way up for so long. I mean, anytime I went to like a New England independent show, it was her. She was her against whoever else. Sometimes it was Mercedes KV, aka Sasha Banks, or somebody like that. But I think Britt Baker's got a lot of potential. I feel like obviously she's hurt, but she's very character driven and she's doing a really good job at it. But I feel like Mercedes probably got more of the whole package.
Yeah, so I don't know Mercedes Martinez at all other than the Mae Young Classic, but it was a really good showing at the Mae Young Classic in 2017. I thought she did really, really good. So, but still, Mercedes Martinez. So it moves on. Next one is an odd one. Rio and Ivory.
Um, I'm not really a big fan of Rio. I've tried to be, but the one thing that kind of like she's a smaller wrestler, um, and you can tell in the ring. What I mean by that is like her strikes are kind of soft. Um, so I'd like to see a little bit more hard hitting from her. I feel like Ivory, she played her characters really well, and again, I think like the stuff that she did on Tough Enough, like um, she's somebody you just put in the ring with anybody, and she'll put on something good. Like she carried probably a lot of the women's wrestlers at that time. So I'm going with Ivory.
Yeah, it's hard to again put up someone who's been around since 1986 against Riho, who's wasn't born then probably. And
Yeah,
then for
that's.
Ivory to come back, what 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and do some stuff with WWE and still
Yeah.
have it.
I
She was
think
also
Rio's
in
got a
the
lot of potential. Like
yeah for
she's still
sure.
she's still so young.
I think they did her a disservice by putting the AEW title on her so early.
Yeah.
Um, Ivory, I mean, Right to Censor alone is hilarious stuff.
That was
So
one of my favorite groups. Everybody doesn't like I love that group.
I mean, I thought they were good. I mean, they
Yeah,
had what Stevie Richards was in that, right? And
yeah.
was it Val Venus and the Good Father?
The Good Father, Bull
Yeah,
Buchanan.
I forgot about him. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Was Bull Buchanan a part of the Army group too?
The Truth Commission. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. With Kurgan, who I just saw in a movie recently, and I don't remember what movie it is, but he was in it. Next up, we have this is not a tough one, but Tony Storm versus Sonya Deville.
I like them both. I think they're both great, but I'm gonna go with Tony Storm just from match quality standpoint. Um, I just like her style. She has a lot of emotion. She's been around the world and proven everywhere she goes she can hang. So I'm going with Tony.
Yeah, no question for me. I like Sonya Deville, but Tony Storm is probably one of my favorites of the last couple of years. Seeing her on the Mae Young Classic, watching NXT UK, amazing, amazing superstar. So yeah, Tony Storm. Next one I think might be a little unfair as well. We got Penelope Ford versus Paige.
Paige.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, man, she was really good. Again, somebody so young who just had a lot of talent, and it's too bad her career ended when it did. But
yeah,
got
Paige
nothing
for
really to
me
say.
as well. Unless The Rock makes a movie about Penelope Ford, I think Paige will always have it. So. Next, Jazz versus Alicia Fox.
Man, that's a tough one. You know what? I'm going with Alicia Fox on this. She has one of the best tilt-a-whirl backbreakers I've ever seen from anybody. Anytime she did it, it was so crisp. Like I looked forward to like one of her matches just to see her do a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker because I love the tilt-a-whirl backbreaker. Like whenever I watched Lucha Libre, they would do it 10,000 times, and every time they did it, I was like, yes. And when she does it, looks like she breaks the person's back. Um, yeah, and she's just so athletic. Um, I mean, Jazz is great too, but I got to go with Alicia.
I'll go with Alicia on this one too, just because I don't know a lot about Jazz. Alicia Fox has been around for quite a
Jazz is still
while.
going.
Is she?
She's
Is Alicia
and
Fox not?
I think she's taking a little sabbatical
Oh,
right
okay.
now.
Yeah,
Uh,
last time she was on TV was 2019. So
yeah, she quietly left. I think she's got some personal stuff going on. So.
she's made me laugh a couple of times in her backstage stuff.
Oh, her
She
character
seems,
is hilarious.
yeah, yeah. So granted, her in ring personality annoys me. I think she's very loud and obnoxious, but obviously Alicia over Jazz for me.
Okay.
Next one, too old school, Jacqueline and Michelle McCool.
Damn. Miss Jackie's been around forever, and she again somebody who she could just go and beat the living crap out of people, and it was awesome. Um, but I'm gonna give it to Michelle McCool because I always say that like she, at the time period she was in was kind of still that over sexualized kind of time frame, and she was legitimate. You know, she started off in kind of that same kind of thing, but then she was like, no, I can wrestle. And she went out there and proved it. And she's still coming around, every once in a while and going and doesn't look half bad from a wrestling standpoint. So I'm going with Michelle.
I know Jacqueline more than I know Michelle McCool. I actually did not watch wrestling while Michelle McCool was around, but I followed a little bit of what she's done, and her returns to WWE have always been good. She doesn't look like she doesn't belong there. She's been at two
Man,
times.
you
What is it?
missed Lake. You missed Lake Cool. Lake Cool was they were pretty good,
Yeah,
funny.
yeah. I've seen it. I've seen the pieces of it, but definitely needed to get deeper into that time period. I'll go with Michelle McCool as well.
Okay. Man, no disagreements here.
Next one, Dakota Kai, Kylie Ray.
Oh
I'm already gonna
no.
say it, Dakota Kai. One of my favorite wrestlers, and I think Kylie Ray is just a budget Bailey.
No, I don't think so. All right. I'm going to I'm going to agree with you because on the bigger stage Dakota Kai has done more. But I think gives Kylie a little bit more time and she will too. I think if she would have stuck in AEW, we might be having a different discussion, but Kylie Ray tears it up on the indies and I feel like her best matches are intergender matches. Um, she's her and Orange Cassidy had a great match. But yeah, I'll agree with you on Dakota. I don't have any qualms. I wish I didn't have to vote her out in the first round though.
Yeah, yeah. Granted, she is a big name. I thought she would have made it further, but Dakota Kai for me, by far, one of the better wrestlers that NXT has. Like you said, I think if Kylie Ray had stayed with AEW, it might be better. She went to the land where women wrestlers die at Impact Wrestling, and personal opinion. Next, Naomi and Deonna Purrazzo.
I feel like if this was a conversation maybe in 2 years from now, I'd go with Deanna. But I'm gonna go with Naomi. Um, just from what she's done, super athletic. I mean, has so much crowd support when she comes out there. Like, it doesn't matter if she's been on TV last week or hasn't been on TV in 2 years. She comes out there, that crowd pops for her. And she's just such a lovable character. So I'm going with Naomi.
All right. I'm going to go with Naomi as well. I want to like her more. I think she's very good. She holds herself really well. But Naomi, been around a decent amount of time, has a lot of experience, has good matches all the time. So next up, we have Tennille Dashwood versus Nikki Cross. This one's a tough one for me.
Me too. Me too. Um, what's your thoughts? I'm thinking here.
I'm gonna just I'm just gonna shoot it and just say Tennille Dashwood for me. It's one of those things. I saw her live with you actually over in Connecticut. Nikki Cross is great, probably one of the better characters that I've seen in the WWE in a long time. I really like what she's doing with Alexa Bliss on the with their tag team. I think they're super good. She's way better as a nice person than she was as the heel before. But Tennille Dashwood, for some reason, whenever she shows up somewhere, I'm super excited about it. Even though she hasn't done much, I feel like she never stays anywhere long enough to do anything. But every time she shows up, I'm excited about it.
I'm going to disagree here and go with Nikki
Ooh.
Cross. So I was on the fence. I feel like Tenille in the ring is probably better than Nikki Cross, and Nikki Cross is probably a better character. Whether she was Insanity or the stuff she's doing with Alexa Bliss now, she draws attention to her, and whereas Tenille kind of maybe didn't have those opportunities to really shine in a character standpoint. So I'm going with Nikki here. So I think we gotta go to the tiebreaker.
All right, Randy, how do you feel? It looks like Randy is choosing Nikki Cross. So Nikki Cross advances, and I'm not upset about it. Not upset about it. I do like Nikki Cross a lot, so that's good for me. Just a couple things to remind people as you're listening to us. We are working our way through the first round of top female wrestlers of 2000 to present. This is opinions only, and this is our first episode. We haven't done a lot of research into this, so this is just us off the cuff as much as we can. As we get better at doing these podcasts, we will probably put a little bit more effort into it. But if you disagree with us, you can hit us up on Facebook. We are at facebook.com/youdadmeathello. So you can reach us there. Feel free to leave a comment, like us, subscribe, hit that like button, do whatever you need to do. Because if you hate everything we're saying, we want to hear about it. And if you like everything we're saying, we want to hear about it too. So feel free to do that.
I don't want any hate. There's enough of that on Facebook.
Next up, we got Gail Kim versus Natalya.
This is another tough one. I mean, both of these ladies have been around for a long time, and both of them are fantastic in the ring. You know, I'm gonna go with Gail Kim here. I've always just enjoyed watching her on the screen, and I feel like sometimes there's been matches with Natalya where I'm kind of like, I'm not really interested in this. But there's other times where like her match with like Charlotte that put Charlotte on the map. Like Natalya is at that point now where she's in there to put other people over, and she does a great job at that. But I gotta go with Gail.
All right. Well, I am going to go with Natalya, only because I think, like you said, she does a great job of kind of working for the company, working for the other person. Not the greatest wrestler in my opinion, but is part of one of the greatest families of wrestling, and therefore is better than most. But again, not my normal favorite, but Natalya is my pick because we've gone separate ways. Randy has chosen Gail Kim as well, and Gail Kim moves on to the next round. Next one is Carmella versus Kimber Lee. I have a feeling I know where you're going with this.
I liked Carmella when she was with Enzo and Cass. I thought she played that Long Island type pretty well. She went to URI, right? So she's kind of a Rhode Island native, kind of. And when she was women's champ that first time, I thought she had a great run with that and just played to her strengths. Kimber Lee on the independent scene, fantastic. I love watching her matches. Just watched her and Joey Janela tear it up at Beyond Wrestling, and and she takes a beating. And I wish she got more of a shot on the bigger stage. I'm going with Kimber Lee.
All right, I'm gonna go with Carmella. I think Carmella, like you said, the two major points would be when she was with Enzo and Cass, and then when she was with what's that small dude's name?
James Ellsworth.
James Ellsworth.
That was great.
I actually did like that storyline a lot. I don't know Kimber Lee at all, so I'm going with Carmella. Randy has chosen to go with Kimber Lee as well. So Kimber Lee moves on to the next round.
I'm not saying that I've been paying Randy, but
I have a feeling. Well, he's your friend, so.
Yeah.
Next one, Beth Phoenix versus Ember Moon.
Oh, I'm gonna punch you in the throat for this one.
I randomized it. It's not my fault.
Maybe. Well, I'm gonna say you because Randy's still on my side. I wish Ember got the chances that she deserves. You know, she's got some injuries going on too. because I feel like Ember should be a bigger deal than she is. I'm going with Beth Phoenix. She's a pioneer and just always had great matches.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get deeper into reasons, but Beth Phoenix for sure. Great commentator right now on NXT. Youngest person to ever be inducted into the Hall of Fame. The fact that I think wasn't she the first? Was she one of the first women in the Royal Rumble? I know maybe China was, but I think
China
Beth Phoenix was in it twice, right? It's good. She made the Hall of Fame in 2017. Divas champ once, women's champ 3 times. So yeah, there she goes. Next up, we have Shotzi Blackheart from NXT versus Victoria. That's an odd pairing.
It is. I like Shotzi a lot. I think she's finding her way in NXT, but I gotta go with Victoria. Loved her wherever she went. She had some cool moves. The Widow's Peak was just it's a killer finisher. She played that like crazed kind of lunatic. Just yeah, she was awesome. I love Victoria.
She's come a long way. She was one of the Godfather's hosts back in the day.
I was too.
Yeah, it's tough because I did watch Victoria back in the day. She's done a lot, obviously, in wrestling. She was PWI Woman of the Year in 2004. She's done a lot more in TNA recently, right? I think, but I'll go with Victoria too on this one.
Okay.
Just because I don't want to argue with you. Get Randy involved.
Randy.
Next one is Io Shirai versus China.
Ooh.
This one was a tough one.
I mean, China is like the pioneer of women's wrestling, but if you think back, like, did she have any like classics?
No.
No. Again, but the character was there. I mean, she didn't have to say or do much. She was just that imposing figure and drew that attention. But I'm going with Io Shirai here. She just impresses me so much. She is just one of the best moonsaults I've ever seen. The character that she has right now, like that entrance. When you told me, like, because I was kind of like fading out of NXT, and you were like, you got to see Io Shirai's entrance, and I saw that. I got chills, man. Like, I'm dead serious. Like, I was like, wow. I was totally drawn in to what she had to do, and she didn't even step in the ring yet.
Yeah, it's hard because, like you said, China is probably the most famous name in women's wrestling, even though, quite honestly, she wasn't a very good wrestler. She had a couple matches with Jericho, but the only reason those were good is because Jericho was in it, and he kind of held her through it. She was definitely a moments person more than she was an actual good wrestler. So because of that, I'm going to go with Io Shirai. Obviously, I agree with all the stuff you said about Io Shirai too. Great wrestler. Has a huge future, even though she's been around for like 13 years. But we're just seeing her, for the last 3 years with Mae Young and NXT. Next, we have Candice LeRae and Bayley. This one's a sad one for me.
Yeah, I mean, I love Candice LeRae, but I got to give it to Bayley. Bayley was kind of always the fourth horsewoman, of the group. Which maybe that's a little unfair, but they're not saying that anymore. I mean, I'm not really watching it too much right now, but I'm reading it, and it's it's Bayley. She's run the show, so I'm giving it to Bayley.
Yeah, I agree. Candice LeRae is one of my favorite on NXT right now. The stuff she's doing with Johnny Gargano is losing it for me. I think she's kind of a terrible actress when it comes to some of the stuff they're doing with Johnny. But Bayley's never been a great talker, but since she turned heel, she got a ton of confidence. The stuff with her and Sasha's been great. I'm hoping we get another Sasha Bayley feud here. I know they're setting up for it with her taking out Sasha recently. And they had amazing matches in NXT, so I'm hoping they'll do that again on the big stage. So Bayley moves on. Next up, we have Zelina Vega versus Nikki Bella.
Um, I think Zelina is pretty dang good in the ring, and her character. I mean, she can talk. Um, I'd put her up there as one of the better managers probably in a long time. Um, but again, I'm gonna give it to Nikki Bella. Um, as much as her, the other stuff like the her other shows, I don't watch any of that, and that would probably draw me probably more away from Nikki. But inside the ring, um, she's really well put together. Probably that like from a from a wrestling standpoint, like dude, her elbow that she gives, just that forearm, oof, like knock people's heads off. I've literally like jumped out of my couch. Like sometimes I've seen her hit it. Like yeah, that's like a Masawa type forearm right there. So I'm going with Nikki.
Now, I just want to point out we're about to move Nikki Bella over, even though she won Worst Feud of the Year in 2014,
All
Worst
right.
Feud of the Year in 2015, and the Worst Worked Match of the Year in 2013. But
All
I
right,
agree.
but yeah,
Zelina's great. Zelina's actually one of my favorite up and comers, but she's up and coming. I just not enough stuff for me.
yeah, she hasn't really been put into that position yet. I know she's got an upcoming feud with Asuka, so you know maybe that will change some minds.
I am super excited about that. I think Zelina coming back to wrestling is going to be really really good.
Yeah.
Um, but I say also Nikki Bella not my favorite of the two. Brie is actually my favorite. But Nikki is obviously very very good. Next up we have AJ Lee and Piper Niven. Not fair, I think, in this one.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with AJ Lee, just from the character standpoint, everything. I like Piper. Um, over on NXT UK, probably one of the best women's wrestlers over there. But again, really hasn't been given much opportunity, especially with the COVID shutdown. So, excuse me, I'm going with AJ.
Yeah, AJ Lee for me too. When I got back into wrestling in 2012, she was on the roster. Her and Paige, there when Paige debuted, huge moment for me in women's wrestling. So she had a great talk. She talked very well, unlike me currently. She talked good, and yeah.
I
So
say
AJ Lee.
words.
AJ Lee is moving on to the second round. So next up, we have Ivelisse versus Rhea Ripley.
Evilise has really has had really short runs in companies, so
Mhm.
hasn't really gotten that opportunity to kind of shine. So where Rhea, the first time I saw her on the Mae Young Classic, I didn't know who the hell she was. And again, she was somebody who, before she stepped in the ring, I was like, that's a star. I just felt like she had something, and yeah, she's she definitely does. She's great.
She came in, I think, on the Mae Young Classic with a
Look,
different look, and then when she came back with the more hardcore look, I thought that caught my eye.
yeah,
She became the NXT UK Women's Champion. Was that over Tony Storm? I can't remember. I think I was
was
mad that she beat Tony Storm because I was really hoping Tony Storm would win. But been great on NXT, so I'm gonna go with Rhea Ripley too. Ivelisse was on the list for me because of her Lucha Underground stint, which I loved Lucha Underground for a short period of time that they were around. Um, at this rate, I think we've got five more, and I think we're gonna call it a day for the first round podcast here. The second podcast will probably finish everything because we've cut it in half now.
because we talk too
Um,
much. You talk too much, man. You never shut up.
Shout out to Botchamania, botchamania.com. Hopefully, we can get them as a sponsor in the future because they're
Let's get
great.
let's get
Yeah,
Matthew on here.
Matthew. Jordan Grace versus Chris Statlander. That's a hard one for you.
This is because again, being a big indie watcher, both these gals were the elite, and I like both a lot. They were both on my list. However, I'm gonna go at Chris Statlander. She's done a lot in a small amount of time, and I think sky's the limit for her.
Oh man, Um,
And
I like
whatever you
Jordan
say,
Grace.
I won't be mad because I like both a lot.
I like Jordan Grace. I've seen a couple of things that she's done. Um, Personal opinion, I think Chris Statlander's character is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
It's just what
Um,
AEW's done to her.
is it okay? If it's an
Yeah,
AEW thing, then that's fine.
it doesn't
Um,
it doesn't come off very well on the big screen.
I mean, like you said, she's accomplished, I think, probably more than Jordan Grace has due to just experience. Um, so I'll go with Chris Statlander to make it easy.
Forced you into that one.
Next one's a tough one, I think, for everyone. Alexa Bliss versus Trish Stratus.
No, it's not a tough one for me. I'm going with Trish.
Oh,
Uh, I like Alexa. Um, I feel like Trish is the better wrestler in the ring, and she had some pretty crazy storylines, and she always played them well. Um, I think Alexa's super talented as well. Um, so I'm not using that as a cop out, but I just feel like Trish was the better overall package,
well,
and she can keep coming back and look like she almost never left. Like she doesn't lose a step.
well, this podcast might be over before it started. I am gonna say Alexa Bliss by far. Trish Stratus, great. Obviously, I'm not going to say she's not amazing. Hasn't had a huge run. Still on today. Probably could return tomorrow and still do her thing. She was never my thing. I never liked her McMahon stuff. The storyline with McMahon. I think she was part of that atrocious Linda McMahon in a wheelchair at WrestleMania storyline, which was not Trish's fault. But yeah, Alexa Bliss by far. Just listen to her Uncool podcast today with The Miz. If you want to check that out on Spotify. But I'm gonna go with Alexa Bliss for sure. For me, she's been in a lot of firsts. So is Trish Stratus, but Alexa Bliss has been in some lately firsts, which I cannot think of any at this point, but I know she has.
Texting Randy right now.
Yes, so Randy has decided Alexa is moving on. He finally sided with me.
All right, Randy. It's all right. It's all
So
right.
that's good. So sadly, I don't know how we did it, but we just kicked Trish Stratus out of the first round.
In the first round. Yeah. Yeah.
That doesn't seem fair. That doesn't seem
Well,
good.
I mean, this talent list is pretty crazy.
It is, but I just want to point out that Kimberly and Naomi are in the second round, and Trish Stratus is not. Doesn't make sense, but that's okay. Next up, we have Kairi Sane and Bianca Belair. This is a hard one for me. Two NXT mainstays.
I'm going with Kyrie. I feel like she's just more consistent. And I don't know what the hell they're doing with Bianca Belair. She could be so much more in WWE. I don't know what's going on, but she's got tons of potential. Super strong. I saw her deadlift a woman that she was facing off the ground over her and press slammed her. I've never seen anybody do that in the ring before. That was something that I was just blown away. Her athleticism is just second to none. But Kairi Sane, you put her in there against anybody, she's going to have a great match.
Yeah, that's true. When I saw her in the Mae Young Classic, and that elbow, probably the best elbow in the business.
Yep.
I mean, up there, like Macho Man, Shawn Michaels, Kairi Sane. Like she's up there. Like I've never seen an elbow like that. The elbow alone puts her on this list. Bianca Belair is a better character, a better talker, partly because of the English issue. And Kairi Sane has left WWE as of late. So I don't know what she's going to be doing next. The Kabuki Warrior thing was horrendous in my opinion. But everything she did in NXT was great. So I'll agree. Let's go with Kairi Sane. Next is Mandy Rose versus Sasha Banks.
Sasha Banks. Yeah.
That's not hate for Mandy Rose.
No.
Doesn't make sense.
Man, I hated her guts though on Tough Enough, Mandy.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, oh God. And then she stuck around. And I was like, oh, okay. Like she proved me wrong. Like maybe they made her be that character, which is probably more likely. Like but Sasha Banks, I mean, I don't think I really need to say much. She's had so many classics and held pretty much every belt, so if not all of them.
Yeah, I won't even talk about Sasha, right? I mean, she deserves, to be on the list. Mandy Rose, no hate for her. She, I think, was saved by The Miz during Tough Enough, which caused some controversy between The Miz and Paige, maybe. And I remember watching
Daniel
that.
Bryan.
Danny Bryan, yeah. So all that's great. I love Mandy Rose and Otis. That whole storyline is hilarious. It's great.
No, they just broke it up.
Did they?
They moved her over to Raw.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Well, I liked that anyway.
Why, when you have something good, why keep it around? They'll probably move Otis over too.
But anyways, yeah. So Sasha Banks moves on, and finally, last round, last bracket of the round: Brie Bella versus Brandy Rhodes.
I already know what you're gonna say, and I'm gonna say the same thing. Brie Bella. I just haven't seen it yet with Brandy Rhodes in the ring. You know, she's trying a lot of different characters and stuff, but she can talk. I mean, she can definitely talk, but I feel like from an in-ring standpoint and just I'm going with Brie.
Yeah, Brandy Rhodes is on here partly because of her role in AEW and her talking ability. I have never been caught by her in-ring ability. Brie Bella, I think, is the better of the Bella twins. And I watched the Bella show, or whatever it was, Total Bellas or whatever. And her and Daniel Bryan, I like them a lot. So I've always liked Brie outside of the ring. So at this rate, I'll go with Brie as well.
That was a tough first round.
It was. That catches us up. We are now at the top 32, which is half of what we started with. Again, if you're liking what you're hearing, feel free to reach out at facebook.com/youdadme@hello. We'll also have a YouTube.
I was gonna say I want to hear if people are agreeing or disagreeing, because there'll be both.
Yep.
They can tell us how we're stupid and I can't believe you voted Trish Stratus out because this is so real and come on, man.
Reach out to us. We don't have a YouTube as of the time we are recording this, but obviously that's where we'll put this out, so you will have already seen it.
Bro, you don't even have a YouTube set up? Come on, it's so easy. You just register and you put your name in. You just put videos up. Come on.
Hit us up on Facebook or on YouTube to let us know what other podcast subjects you want us to go into. I can tell you now, we have ideas of going into 90s TV shows, 90s movies, our favorite kids movies, our favorite horror movies, our favorite dramas, whatever. We'll get into music for sure. Hip hop, rap of the 90s is a big one. R&B was big for me, and wrestling for sure. So if you're not a wrestling fan, stay tuned. We'll definitely hit up. What is it?
I said tough noogies.
But anyways, that's it. Thank you for joining us at the You Dad Me at Hello. It took us a long time to come up with that podcast name. Everybody is a dad on podcasts, I guess. So it took us a long time to figure that out.
All we got to do.
Yeah. But anyways, thanks for joining us. Have a good night. We'll see you next time, next episode.
Peace.